This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Kicking off hour 2 here on Money Moves, VSiN, the sports betting network, Sirius XM channel 158. I'm Stormy Buonantony. He's Jonathan Von Tobel, the man with the very sturdy wave there I saw. We got a great hour on deck here with you. A couple great guests coming up in 15 minutes. Former NFL quarterback turned college football analyst Brock Osweiler on the program. We'll get his reaction to the breaking news in the last hour that Dante Moore will remain an Oregon Duck for the next year instead of declaring for the draft. His thoughts on Fernando Mendoza and, of course, the national championship coming up on Monday. We'll also have Stephen Hennessey of Golf Digest break down the Sony Open, which will get underway tomorrow, our first PGA Tour event of the season coming up. But what I am most excited to hear from you is you and Mitch Moss. Over the last couple days, you were getting into your thought process on how to approach the divisional round and beyond in the National Football League postseason. And you were diving into some of the exacta markets, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Find anything you liked?
We have video evidence of this, I believe.
Let's do it, shall we? Send it over to the pod, to the futures.
If you want Texans 49ers, that's 40-1 and again, this is just the finalists. So this would be the matchup. You don't need anybody to win. Bills 49ers 35-1, Broncos 49ers 35-1. And then you get, so in terms of what the market thinks, and the Bears, obviously 2-seed being at home, this alters what you're thinking here. And then you get to the Bears Texans 30-1, Patriots 49ers 30-1. So Bears 49ers, the bottom of the ladder in terms of the NFC finalists and the thought by the market.
First off, I have tried for so long here. I can't get this fixed for the life of me. The white balance on my camera is ridiculous.
A little orange.
Yeah, like what the hell is that?
Spent a lot of time in the old spray tan
The Oval
box.
Office? No, like I don't understand why it keeps doing that.
Yeah,
anyway.
I can confirm as sitting someone 3 feet to your right, you are very pale.
I think I'm a darker shade than you, though.
Yeah, but everyone knows
the sun
that about
has
me.
kissed my skin every once in a while. I don't know about you. It seems to be scared
I
of
wear
your skin.
bronzer. I think that helps for me.
It's bronzer. I would hate to see non-bronzer. So we were just going over some of the exactas for the Super Bowl. You know, you look through this, again, as somebody who does think the Texans might be a shot here as making their way through a path that is somewhat serviceable. What really started the conversation between him and I was, what's the Super Bowl you think you'd like to see the most? And mine was, at least there's two, they're kind of on opposite sides of the spectrum, but to see the strength on strength, a Rams-Texans type game, I think would be a ton of fun.
Best offense, best defense.
Really good clash. If you wanted to just see one of those, I invoked the Super Bowl, the Eagles and Patriots Super Bowl, where if you remember, they had over, I think, about 1,100 yards of total offense. Every prop went over, every yes hit. Your team, the 49ers, taking on the Bills, I think would probably be in that range of just a high-scoring, really fun game. Bears-Bills might be in that range as well.
When you teed up 49ers-Bills, I was like, just teams that are really injured, just seeing who
that
can
too,
get
right?
out of this thing.
Well, that you could liken it to two guys. I always like to make this comp: two people who can't fight, so they just meet in the middle and throw haymakers the whole time, and you get a knockout. It's fun. So that might be the case as well. But if you're looking at this in reality, and if you're looking at the way that this might go, I do think looking at some exactas, it might be an ugly game, and this kind of goes down the path of what we talked about yesterday when we invoked Kaimia Fairbairn to win MVP, and we also brought this up on the pod. Find out wherever you get your podcast. A Texans-Seahawks exacta might be one that I think is a little bit more based in reality, outside of what you're actually looking at. I mean, obviously, the Seahawks have your team. They're 7-point favorites. I would like their chances against whoever comes out of that game, Chicago and L.A. Obviously, you're going to get them at home should the Seahawks win, as we're talking about in this scenario. So, and if I'm right, that the matchup is the Texans, if they make it their way through here, then something like that might be a little bit more realistic for you as well.
So Texans Seahawks in like the name the finalists is around 8-1. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to see what
not
that
as
would
sexy, but
what that would be if you wanted like Seattle to beat the Texans or the other way around.
Yeah.
Texans to beat Seattle is 19-1. And then I'm trying to find the other one. 15-1 for Seattle to beat the Texans. So you can get you can double up on that if you have a firm side on who you think would ultimately win that matchup as well when all is said and done. To the favorite in that market, Seattle to beat the Patriots with where things have sat on the bracket, 11-1. Rams to beat the Patriots, 12-1. That's the same price for Seattle to beat Denver. I want to go back to the divisional round though, and the 49ers and Seahawks where.
By the way, Just really quickly, because I mentioned Fairbairn, he's down to 500 to 1 to win Super Bowl MVP.
Look at you moving numbers.
It was 2,000 to 1.
Look at you moving numbers.
I don't know if it was me, but I will say we talked about that. Did we mention that too? Adelman's already down to 40 to 1 over at one spot at MGM after we discussed
You're
it.
moving numbers.
And,
he said 66 to 1 bet MGM. Gonna scoop that up.
And well, I texted Mitch too, because we usually that's our thing, because we're pot of the futures. And he's like, it's already down to 40. Like, oh, okay. Well, it's still 60 at DraftKings if you want it. So,
speaking of numbers on the move, though, this Seattle 49ers game, we are seeing those hooks go away. And that is when we'll get to our best bets at the end of the hour. But I did add the 49ers plus 7.5. Still available at Circa.
Look at you moving numbers.
Where we're broadcasting from here. But we're largely seeing 7. And I did think that was a little bit interesting because with the stance I felt like that was made on the initial number with that moving out from the 7 to 7.5, I was wondering if maybe we would get to an 8, but apparently that 7.5 just felt like a touch too much for those of us that have jumped in so far. The total has also ticked back and forth between 44.5, 45.5. That's what we see now. A couple injury updates for you. Trent Williams and Ricky Pearsall. Obviously, Williams played this past game. Ricky Pearsall was DNP all of last week, but he's been back out on the practice field. He was limited yesterday. Fred Warner's practice window officially opened. Will not play this week, but should they, hypothetically, make an NFC championship, that is the expectation, is that he would be back from that dislocated and fractured ankle. On the Seattle side of this thing, Charles Cross back as a full participant, their left tackle who missed the last 3 weeks of the regular season, which is excellent considering the guy who replaced him in those games, Josh Jones, is dealing with a knee issue. He did not practice yesterday.
I think this is a really strong teaser opportunity for Seattle.
Bring him down to win by 1.
Bring him down to 1, yeah. And then pair it up, as I mentioned. So out here, you can find spots like Caesars out here has Denver as a 1-point dog.
This is annoying. For the divisional round, I have my heart invested in so many of these games. My brain tells me to bet a certain way because I totally agree with you. Yeah. I think bringing down Seattle to win makes too much sense.
Seattle-Denver is a very strong team this weekend. Yeah.
Yes, I 100% agree with you. Yet I don't know if I could do that. Or maybe I should just to have the emotional hedge angle. I don't know. But I think that is... I
was trying to think of a scenario in which it gets ruined for you no matter what, but that's not...
At first blush, when I was looking at those, that was the teaser that I made in my head.
I guess the Seahawks 1-point win would kill you.
Yes, absolutely.
You tease them down and then they win by 1.
Worst case scenario. Awful.
It'd be kind of funny.
Thanks for that. No thanks.
It'd be kind of funny. But I think that's, as you mentioned last week, the strong teaser, if you will, the Jacksonville Green Bay teaser leg that ultimately got there. These playoff games are going to be tight. These numbers are relatively tight too. So if you're getting through key numbers in the NFL playoffs, I think they're very much worth it, especially if you're, again, we should always reiterate, if you're talking about a place where the teasers are still priced at a palatable range, minus 145 where some spots are at, no, but if you're still in that minus 125, minus 130 range, which is a couple of spots that are still pricing those teasers like that, I still think getting through, especially these NFL playoffs, worth laying those prices there. So
we talked earlier about some of the coaching carousel and the 9 openings that we have currently in the National Football League. Played you a little bit of sound from Stephen Bisciotti, the Ravens owner, on the podium yesterday in reference with the Mike Tomlin and all of that, because there was a fun moment, but he dove into a lot of the rationale and reasons why he decided to move on from John Harbaugh at the time that he did. And it was at least interesting to hear his perspective. Take a listen to Ravens owner Steve Bisciotti.
I felt it was the right time to make the change. If not now, when? I guess is what I'm saying. Next year, I heard that we were contemplating, I wasn't even the decision maker, contemplating replacing the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator. And that may have been the final nail in the coffin. I thought, if I'm already here and my gut is telling me it's time, why would I let John rebuild an entire staff? Because I'm going to be sitting here next year saying, what the hell did I do last year? Last year was the time. So it wouldn't have been fair, because I think we had run our course.
If Tyler Loop makes that field goal, is John Harbaugh still here coaching this team?
For a week.
That's cold. Also, apparently you're not the only one who pounds the table.
I mean, if we're really being honest, one of us has a bad habit of doing that.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly. I would say that he's a liar, first off. If John Harbaugh won, if Loop makes that kick, and then let's say they win again, and let's say they win the Super Bowl, He's not gone.
Correct.
So let's stop acting like no matter what, the ominous for a week. Like, I get that sounds cold and you get the clip, but let's be quite honest with ourselves about how this would have gone.
Since drafting Lamar in 18, the Ravens have won 86 regular season games, have not reached the Super Bowl, obviously, tied for the second most regular season wins in an 8-season span without one. Bisciotti also noted Baltimore was moving in the wrong direction. You host the AFC title game in 2023. You get axed in the divisional round last year, failed to make the postseason this year. So wanted to make a change, needed to. I do want to play this other soundbite really quickly, though, when asked about how involved Lamar Jackson will be in his voice in the decision-making for the next head coach.
A lot to say, but he has no power. I have the power. They have opinions, and I want them all. I care about my players very much, but I can't give them power.
I think that's the right answer.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's being a little dramatic in this whole
It does kind of sound like Godfather.
Yeah, like he's going. I think he's trying to get some clips out there for whatever reason.
It's working. We're playing them.
You don't have to go into the power dynamic. I'm going to listen to their opinions. Absolutely.
They have made a lot of interviews already, discussions with Vance Joseph, Broncos pass game coordinator as well, Davis Webb, Clint Kubiak, Kevin Stefanski. Stefanski also interviewed with the Dolphins today. Matt Nagy, Cliff Kingsbury. Like, they are going through the entire gamut, seeing what they can do. Their former head coach, John Harbaugh, met with the Giants today as well in his first official on-site visit anywhere. Reminder, everybody, football meets flavor with VSiN and Omaha Steaks, the official sponsor of tailgating. Right now, you spend $129, which let me tell you, is very easy to do with all the great stuff they have at the website. You can score 2 pounds of fully cooked chicken wings, plus 50% off site-wide when you go to omahasteaks.com/VSiN. Who doesn't love free stuff? 2 pounds of free fully cooked chicken wings, plus 50% off the whole site, VSiN.com. omahasteaks.com/VSiN, VSIN. Minimum purchase required. See site for details. We got Brock Osweiler coming up next to talk through the Natty. Don't miss it.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools, but what they don't want you to know is that you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. VSiN Pro gives you access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Just tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Good day to talk some college football. We are less than a week out from the national championship out there in Miami with the home team. Miami taking on Indiana and a quarterback who's playing a home game as well for him, having grown up about a mile away from the stadium. And we had all these plans to lead off talking national championship in this segment. But instead, we're going to go another direction with the news in the last half an hour or so that Oregon quarterback Dante Moore will remain at Oregon this coming season instead of declaring for the draft. And who better to discuss this all with? It's someone who had to make those decisions for himself once upon a time. Brock Osweiler joins us here on the Progressive Guest Line, former NFL quarterback, ESPN college football analyst. And I know, Brock, you follow all of these teams in the national landscape, and it was a big question about what Dante Moore was going to do here. What was your reaction to him making that decision to go back to school?
Yeah, well, I guess before we dive into that, good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Back at you, buddy.
Fun to be with you. But yes, you're right, Stormy. Big breaking news: Dante Moore, quarterback of Oregon, coming back to school. And I would say this: I think he certainly made the right decision. I think when you look at it as a whole, I believe he's had 20 career starts throughout his college career. And one thing, when you start talking with NFL scouts, NFL GMs, and decision makers inside the front office, although it's not necessarily a requirement because you see guys that leave, before they start for 2 full seasons all the time, it's something that they really like to see. I think the more experience you can get in college football, typically your transition into the NFL is going to go a bit smoother. And Dante is yet to hit that, truly that 2 full season mark. I think when you saw his play, now given I think we all know who follow this sport, who's probably listening to your show right now. They're football fans, and so they know. And Indiana is an outstanding defense. But when you look at his performance against Indiana last week, you say to yourself, well, is that a, top 5 pick in the NFL draft? And I would just say it looked like the moment at times was a bit too big. And so I think he's making a fantastic decision to come back to school, work on his skill set, work on his fundamentals. And I also think he's probably looking at it from a perspective of, okay, if I do enter into the draft this year, where am I going to end up? Well, let's be serious. Those situations aren't great, whether it's Las Vegas, whether it's the Jets, whether it's the Cardinals, whether it's the Browns. So if you're a guy that is not fully ready for the NFL, if you don't have your skill set completely sharpened up and ready to go for the next level, I think you head back to school and try to work on your craft and clean some of those things up. So I think he made a great decision.
With Moore's decision, Brock, this pretty much cements Fernando Mendoza's status as the first overall pick. Where do you view him as his status as a prospect in comparison with some of them? Because there's a lot of people getting excited about comparing him to a Joe Burrow level type prospect. And the reason why I ask is there a chance a team like the Raiders would actually still be willing to trade back and let another team draft Fernando Mendoza?
Fernando's been a tough quarterback to really figure out. And I've been fortunate enough during his time at Cal, I don't know, maybe I want to say I covered him live 4 or 5 times. So I've seen him up close and personal. And then I've also watched his film from this year at Indiana. And, I think he's an interesting prospect because every single time you want to knock the kid on something, or you say, you know what, he's not as good as some people say he is, and he's not worthy of the Heisman, and he's not worthy of the number 1 overall pick. He kind of seems to prove us all wrong. And when I turn on the tape, I see a guy that's tough. I see a guy that puts his team first. I see a brilliant, not a smart, but a brilliant quarterback with the way he manages a game. He is very in tune of recognizing what his team needs in specific moments and playing to that. I think, and that's something that's really tough for young quarterbacks to do. Most of the time, you just want to go out there and sling the football and make plays. And he is certainly capable of doing that. He's proven that in different moments. But big picture, I think he understands the game from a very high-level perspective. And quarterbacks that do that don't necessarily grow on trees. I think the thing that makes a quarterback so great in the NFL, it's decision-making, it's timing, and it's accuracy. And that is something that he does at an extremely high level. That is something that all of any team running a West Coast system, so if you think Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, guys like that, that's what they put a heavy emphasis on with their quarterbacks. And I think Fernando does that at an extremely high level. Now, is he Joe Burrow? That's a tough question to ask. I think what Joe did, that last year at LSU was extremely special. And Fernando in his own right is doing those things. But I would say this, it's interesting. When I first put a comp on Fernando Mendoza 2 years ago, the thing that I kind of was saying to people is I go, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Tom Brady. And I think it's really interesting. And mind you, I do have to admit, some people laughed as I said that, but I still stand by it. It is in a text message to other people, so I can prove I said that. I think it's interesting that Las Vegas has that first overall pick, and I think we all know that Tom Brady is going to be involved with that. So is he Joe Burrow? Tough to tell, but I will say this. I wouldn't bet against Fernando Mendoza because what he's doing physically and mentally is really special.
And coincidentally, Tom Brady is Fernando's all-time idol as well. And I would just pay, and I want the Raiders to keep the pick specifically so I can see Fernando Mendoza and Max Crosby hanging out together and just see what that dynamic would be like with those two. You mentioned not wanting to bet against Fernando, though, and his Indiana Hoosiers, Brock, are laying 8.5 points against this team from Miami, who gets to play at home at Hard Rock Stadium. And I know for me at first blush when I looked at this number, before, I thought, maybe that's a little bit too much. But I also think that maybe the market is just caught up to the Indiana Hoosiers and how dominant they have been to this point. How do you see this game shaken out?
Well, obviously betting lines is your expertise, but here's what I do know. I think there was a lot of people going into the Rose Bowl that still doubted that Indiana was real. And, I know Alabama had their flaws and they've been very well noted, weren't running the football great, weren't protecting Ty Simpson well at times. But I think a lot of people still thought Alabama, a team that had been in that space before and knew the magnitude of that moment was going to come through. Well, what did Indiana do? They hung 38 on them, and Bama, I believe, scored 3 points. All right. And then, if you didn't believe Indiana was real after that, what did they do against Oregon? I mean, from the very first play, they completely dominated them. So I think you're correct in saying that the market is finally giving the respect to Indiana that, quite frankly, they deserve. I mean, you go back through their last 3 games, you beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. Nobody thought you could do it. Okay. Then you beat Bama the way you do. Then you beat Oregon the way you do. So, I think it makes sense to me. I think, Miami is a very talented football team, incredible run, and how they've gotten to the national championship. It was not an easy road. But I believe Indiana is, quite a bit better than Miami. And if Miami is going to pull off the upset, they're going to nearly need to play a perfect game in a lot of ways. And they've yet to do that in the playoffs, where that is all Indiana has done. So in a lot of ways, I know it seems a bit far-fetched because it's a national championship and that's a pretty large spread, but in my opinion, Indiana deserves that type of love.
Okay, we only got about 30 seconds left with you, Brock, but before you go, your Broncos against the Bills this weekend. How do you think they do?
It's going to be so good. I'm confident. I'm really confident in the Broncos. I know the Bills are banged up a bit, coming on the road. Denver at home in the playoffs, mile high, that great defense. I think the Broncos will handle business, but listen, Broncos versus Josh Allen in the playoffs doesn't get much better. Can't wait to watch.
You're the best. Thank you so much for doing this. And about time, for anybody who doesn't know, Brock is the analyst for my college football crew each and every week during the season. And the best time. We haven't had you on all year. We finally did it, Brock. We finally did it.
Hey, we did it, and I appreciate you guys having me. That was a lot of fun. Have a good day.
You're the
Thanks,
best.
Brock.
Back at you. Have a great day. Brock Osweiler, everybody. And, of course, was such a key cog in that Broncos team that went on to win a Super Bowl in 2015 and got a nice ring to celebrate it.
It was a key cog.
Yeah.
They needed him throughout the year, so it's pretty cool to be part of that. His Broncos, I agree, too. We've talked about it a lot. I think maybe
they're just that
I don't
good.
want to be too confident.
No, but I get maybe they're just that good.
I mean, well, they are that good. The other team is just, again, I keep going back to it. It's going to be a one-man band.
Ugh. I'm pumped, though.
Maybe some alt lines here. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited to get out there come Monday. Should be a great game. We got to step aside here when we come back. Finally, although it is a week delayed, we have the PGA Tour back this weekend. Going to preview the Sony Open with Stephen Hennessey coming up after this. Stay with us.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
A week later than we would have liked. We are very excited to finally kick off the PGA Tour season. It is back and getting underway tomorrow. Still beginning the year out there on the islands of Hawaii, just instead of Kapalua. We're in Honolulu at the Wailea Country Club for the Sony Open. And to help us break it all down, excited to get Stephen Hennessey on with us here with the Progressive Guest Line, Golf Digest Deputy Managing Editor. You can follow him on X as well at @S_HennessyGD. And it's kind of like the first day of school a little bit, getting back in the swing of things here, Stephen. But you're already, in addition to it being week one of the PGA Tour season, you've been busy screaming at Dan Hurley on the court at Seton Hall UConn yesterday. How are you today?
I'm great. Yeah, it was a great college basketball game last night. My Seton Hall Pirates made it interesting there in the second half. But yeah, I got to see Dan Hurley up close, working the refs on every single play. It didn't matter if he got the call, Didn't matter, if things were going UConn's way, he's yelling. So my voice is a little hoarse from ripping on my fellow Jersey guy, Dan Hurley. But yeah, college basketball is a great time to be betting, but golf is back. So officially pumped for it.
All right, Stephen. So let's start like I usually like to do with golf analysts such as yourself. Sony Open. Walk us through what this course is and what some of the strengths you're going to need as a golfer in your profile to master a course like you're going to see this weekend.
Yeah, this is a unique course on the PGA Tour because we don't get many shorter courses anymore. So this is really a positional type golf course. It negates a lot of the distance that most of these PGA Tour players are seeking on a regular basis. This gives the shorter players a little leg up if you could find the fairway. We find that if you miss the fairway at Wailea, you're giving up basically a third of a stroke per hole to finding the short grass. So, hit it straight down the road, you're going to be in good shape. And then it's a second shot golf course. You're going to be coming in from about 150 yards. But these are big greens, which is a little different than most shorter courses. Most of them have tiny greens. So really proximity to the hole is big, and it does turn into a bit of a putting contest. So I'm looking at, accuracy off the tee. Approach play is huge. And then you got to find a hot putter. It's a tough, obviously. This is our first PGA Tour event back. We didn't get Kapalua last week. Usually we have some momentum from those guys coming over from Maui. So some of these guys we haven't even seen since August if they didn't play in the FedEx Cup playoffs. So yeah, it's a little bit different of a week, but I love these type of weeks because course history is big at Wailea. It is a pretty predictive course year over year. So it's an event that I love to bet.
When you look at the field, 7 of the world's top 20 players, but no Scottie Scheffler, no Rory McIlroy, reigning U.S. Open champ Russell Henley, your 11-1 favorite here. In terms of the outright market, what was your evaluation of the field and maybe some of those guys that should be worth a look from that standpoint to win it all?
Yeah, it's a great field for this. We don't get this good of a field. And, the top of the board is strong for sure. Russell Henley has great history here. Everything that I described that you need to do well at Wailea, he does. Ben Griffin had an amazing 2025. He's right there. He didn't finish outside the top 12 in his last 6 events of the year. So it's tough to find a guy to fade out of those. Robert McIntyre would probably be the one. Playing against him in a few matchups. You could find Colin Morikawa, who's also in this field. He needs a little bit of a bounce back after a weak 2025. He loves Hawaii too. Finished runner-up last year at Kapalua to Hideki Matsuyama. He's in this field, so I like a matchup with Morikawa over McIntyre. In terms of those outrights, you pick your favorite. I'm going down the board. My first one is Aaron Rai at 35-1. I like the value there with Aaron Rai. He's one of these guys we did see over the fall and winter play over on the DP World Tour, and he actually won one of the biggest events over on the DP World Tour. He won in Dubai. He also finished third at the Alfred Dunhill. So I like the form coming in. He's also won on a shorter positional course. He won at Wyndham, the Wyndham Chip a couple of years ago. I was on him then. I'm going to be on him here. 35-1. He's great off the tee, always finds the fairway, great approach player. He's top 5 in both of those categories if you look from July to December of last year. So, you're looking at longer term data, which is different for us handicappers when you're talking about golf, but I'm going to lean on that recent form that we're getting with Aaron Rai, and he's my first pick at the top.
Anybody else that you would include in your portfolio?
Yeah, I like Ryan Gerard as well. Another guy who we did see over the fall. He went all the way over to Mauritius and was trying to qualify for the Masters. He tried to get in that top 50 by the end of the year. If you're in the top 50, you qualify for the next year's Masters. Made that incredible journey and finished second, got his entry into the Masters. So he has a bit of pressure off of him entering this week. He won last year, one of I think he won the Barracuda. So he's done it before. He doesn't have the pressure on him now. He could get hot with the putter as well. So Gerard, his number's about 60-1. I like that. I like sprinkling near the bottom of the odds board because the last 5 events that we've seen the Sony Open, we've seen guys 50-1 or higher win this. So don't be afraid to sprinkle on some long shot outrights this week.
Stephen Hennessey at Golf Digest joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line as we preview the Sony Open getting underway from Hawaii tomorrow. And I guess that's a good question for you, for people that are either just kind of re-getting set for the golf season or have never bet golf before. What is the standard like bankroll distribution that you try to do as you are placing your bets in the outrights and different things? Like, how do you make sure you stay above board when it comes to that?
Yeah, any expert golf handicapper will tell you, really where you're going to make your money is not the outright market. It's really the matchups and it's the placements. So top 10s, top 20s. There's so much variance when it comes to winning a golf tournament with over 100 players in the field. So, I typically have 4 to 5 outrights and limit myself there. And then the guys who I feel strongly about, take them top 20, top 10s, top 20s, even top 40s in a bigger field. You'll find some value. Especially in the majors, you'll get some guys down the board. And then matchups as well. I think matchups is really where you can make a stance against someone. Like I said, Robert McIntyre is someone I'm playing against this week. He's pretty inaccurate off the tee usually. So you find your 1 or 2 players who you're feeling strongly about not winning the golf tournament and find someone to match up against. JJ Spawn is another one over at the Circus Sportsbook. You could get him minus 132 over Robert McIntyre. So that's kind of how, if you're just getting into golf, yeah, it's fun to have an outright ticket in your pocket, and there's nothing beats that sweat on Sunday if you have someone in the mix. But you think about the matchup markets, the placements. That's really, if you want to make this sustainable long term, that's the way to do it.
From round to round, I always like to ask folks, too, when you talk about, from round 1 to round 2, maybe even going into the weekend, adjusted odds, matchups, things like that. What are some of the indicators you're looking for golfers in the midst of a tournament that indicates maybe some regression or some bad luck and they should play better as you head into the later rounds?
Yeah, I mean, we're blessed now with all the data and the stats that the PGA Tour allows, and there's some great websites out there that parses all that data and makes it easy to read. You look at guys who typically are not great putters, but are having a hot putter week. Those are guys to fade mid-tournament. You look at guys who are playing really well approach-wise. Their iron play and their approach game is strong, but they're not really making the putts. Those are guys to back and consider betting throughout the tournament. So that's a good way to get some value on folks. Definitely a way to attack the matchup markets as well. And, you take that tournament data and compare that to like the season long data, see where the mismatches are, and you can find some value that way.
Well, since you gave us some matchups and you said another way that you make the more bang for your buck over time is in those top 10s, top 20s, any of those derivative markets that really caught your attention and you took some positions this week?
Yeah, I like Nick Taylor. So he won here last year. It's pretty tough to back up a win. You're the defending champion for the week, and then there's a lot of obligations that go with that. But we've seen Nick Taylor the last 4 seasons at the Sony Open finish in the top 11. He's got a T7, and a win in his last 3. There's something about Waialae that really suits his eye. And he's made a leap in his career. He's now a 5-time PGA Tour winner, plus 450 for a top 10 for Nick Taylor, someone who's done it the last 3 years. I think that's a pretty good bet. Keegan Bradley as well. We saw a little of him over the break. There's these made-for-TV events. I don't know if the non-golf fan was actually watching those, but someone like me was. He played really well. He called himself like the king of exhibition golf, and did play really well, has done really well at Waialae in the past, and his game really suits this course. Accurate off the tee, great iron player, plus 275 for Keegan Bradley is a good one as a top 10. And Chris Kirk is another one, probably as a top 20 bet. You could get plus 450 as a top 10, around plus 200, 250 or so for a top 20. Great course history here. Again, accurate off the tee, plays really well on these positional type golf courses. So that's the thing to look for this week. Pair a little course history with some, success in the past at other correlated golf courses, and, you could arrive at some good bets this week.
Really great insight today. We appreciate your time, Stephen. Good luck with the bets. Enjoy week 1 of golf officially back.
Hey, you guys too. Thanks so much.
Check out all the work again over there at Golf Digest. Does a great job covering the betting element of it specifically. I was even looking, speaking of Nick Taylor, who had to chip in for Eagle to force his way to the playoff last year. 6 of the last 10 events went to the playoff. Will there be a playoff? 4-1 yes. Just looking for a little fun, a little flavor getting us started here. We got to step aside. We'll be right back as we wrap up this Wednesday edition of Money Moves next.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
All right, I need to fire on something for the Sony Open. We're trying to make some commercial break bets as we welcome you back here to this final segment of Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM Channel 158. Had a great conversation last segment with Stephen Hennessey of Golf Digest, breaking down some of the outrights that he really liked, matchups, top 25s, top 20s, top 10s, and the way that he was talking about trying to fade Robert McIntyre, I am very interested in. So a second ago, I placed that JJ Spawn over McIntyre bet, minus 130. But I'm trying to think about like outright winners or first round things that I might want to dive into.
Yeah, the first rounds. And by the way, Long Shots is being recorded right now, so they'll have a lot of insights on this as well. Our the
premier golf betting podcast in the country, Long Shots.
Our golf buddies.
Oh, yeah, that too. They are our friends.
First round, and Chris Kirk was the other name you were looking for in terms of the
Thank you.
top 10s,
Nick
top
Taylor,
20s,
Keegan Bradley, and Chris Kirk. Okay.
So with that, looking around and seeing what we're going to have here, so I bet a few outrights as we were talking about it, because our goal, I think this is our New Year's resolution, is to bet every golf tournament as a show. So we'll mess around and bet with some golf outside of just the majors this year. Aaron Rai, Hideki Matsuyama, Webb Simpson, Colin Morikawa, and a couple of matchups as well, including Matsuyama over JJ Spawn for the tournament.
Okay. I think I'm also going to play, if I can find it on one of my apps here, the will there be a playoff? Yes, at 4-1. Just like a little sprinkle. We like a baby bet, quarter unit play on that bad boy. 6 of the last 10 events went to a playoff. It happened last year with Nick Taylor. Like I said it before the break, needs an eagle in order to force a playoff, ends up winning the whole thing. So I like that element of it. It's a little bit of a fun thing. I see on DraftKings right now, too, if you want to get even more wild with it, will there be a 3-man playoff, 12-1? 4-man playoff, 65-1, kind of fun, but it is like this is what I really like about golf betting is how many different markets there really are that you can get down on when it comes to all these major, I mean, not major events, but like all their big tournaments each and every week. You can do top 5s, top 10s, top 20s, who's going to make or miss the cut, first round leader, what's the margin of victory going to be? There's so many different ways that you can get involved. Yes,
there is, including, of course, as we've talked about, too, in between and these live rounds, in between rounds, fading guys that are off to hot starts, you know, looking for guys who are absolutely incredible on the greens, things like that, going against them. What do you got?
Who did you like the best of the batch you ended up playing?
Like my children, I love them all equally. Hideki Matsuyama, come on, Mats is my guy.
Mats is your guy?
He's always my guy. He was my white whale for a while, and now my new white whale, which has been my white whale for many years and is never going to happen. It's Fairway Jesus, Tommy Fleetwood. He'll get there one day.
Do I want to... He gave such a great sell for Aaron Rai, too. Maybe I'll do them both.
Why not both?
Just do them both? All right. Let's get wild. Let's have some fun. I do have a couple bets for tonight, but before we look to today, let's recap how things went down yesterday. 1-1 on the hockey plays. We mentioned it earlier. Got there with the Lightning money line. Did not on the over in the Ottawa game. The Senators, by the way, on the second half of back-to-back today in New York, taking on the Rangers. So not bad, but not great, especially considering the tax we had to pay on the Lightning yesterday. So down day. We'll see if that we can forge on today. I do like the Golden Knights as a short favorite in LA against the Kings. And I know this is a team you pay attention to as well. It's no secret Vegas hasn't lived up to their expectations this year. Had a really tough stretch, especially from like mid-December to the new year, but they're stacking some wins in the last week. I think maybe they've found their game a little bit here. Enter tonight on a 4-game win streak. They rocked San Jose on Sunday. 7-2 that win. And I can't remember who it was that was walking through the studio on Sunday when we were doing Live Bet Sunday and we were talking a little bit of hockey. And he mentioned like Golden Knights over the Sharks was one of his picks for the day. And I was like, yeah, they're on like a 10-game series win streak. We'll extend that to 11. That has been dominant for Vegas over San Jose for a long time. But against the Kings today, they're getting healthier. Jack Eichel, Shea Theodore. I know still no William Karlsson, which we got an update on that too, that apparently that's going to be a pretty long-term injury, at least according to Sinbin, that coming out of the Olympic break and trade deadline, potentially season, he might not be available. Kings, meanwhile, slipping a bit, dropped 3 of their last 4, 5 of the last 8, even with them being at home. It's just one of those prices that I looked at it and was a little bit surprised to see Vegas as cheap as they were.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you too. And situationally, the multi-day rest is something that hasn't happened as often for these teams because of the way the schedule's broken down, and VGK comes in with 2 days of rest after playing on Sunday. So it would make some sense that after some time to kind of get off your legs, whether they're weary or not, then go on the road to take on LA.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe you're going to give your best effort. You're going to give your best effort in every game, but this is the start of a tough stretch scheduling-wise. This is the front end of a back-to-back and a 3 and 4. So this is going to be the freshest you're going to grab them here over this stretch where they play L.A. and then come back home for the start of a homestand against Toronto and Nashville, which will be, of course, that game against Nashville, a 3rd and 4 nights.
So minus 118, that price you see now. Another rest disparity game is in the Kraken and Devils. Devils' 3rd game in 4 nights. First game back, too, after 4 straight on the road. So I would expect some tired legs for them tonight.
Got to take care of your broads as well, right? As we talk about all the time, that old school handicapping angle. You got to take care of the Bills.
Sure.
I've told you this before. That's the old school handicapping angle from back in the day. Long road trips, you got to pay the bills and take care of the wife. I don't think that's the case anymore, but a lot of people might like it.
Do what you will with that.
Yeah.
They have been struggling for the last month, though. Lost 8 of their last 11, but coming off a 5-2 win at Minnesota on Monday. But I just look at this Kraken team that has a significant rest advantage. Won 9 of their last 12. They've been on a pretty solid run since mid-December. Beat the Rangers at MSG on Monday. So I do lean to the dog. No play on this one officially, but at plus 124, that was an angle I was looking at today. And our guy Jonathan Davis, who we're going to have on the program coming up tomorrow, he was texting me some angles for this Flyers-Sabres game. Is the total still at 6? So 6.5. There are some juice 6s still out there, but Flyers and Buffalo last 10 meetings have combined for 7 goals or more scored. And according to JD's numbers, 9-0-1 to the over with a total of 6 following a game where they scored just a goal or fewer. Lost 5-1 to Tampa on Monday. In general, I feel like this is a team, too, that's much better. And this is not, the Flyers are not a team that I like, and you know that. I've faded them numerous points on this show and been burned, quite frankly, in doing so. They are better than the 12-3 goal differential they've seen their last 2 games against the Bolts. Sabres, meanwhile, are scoring lately. Even a loss to the Panthers on Monday, had 3, scored 5 and 3 straight wins prior to the loss. They're averaging 3.85 their last 8. So I feel like I agree with JD's main thought process here that we're going to get some goals. I think Buffalo a rightful favorite at minus 135. No play on the side for me. But especially if you can still get that 6 and are willing to pay a little bit of a price on it, I think that's worthwhile.
All right. An impromptu puck around and find out.
There's only 4 games today, so I figured give the people what they want.
Or me, what I want.
Or you,
what
because
I've been
you
asking
bombard
for
me.
all the time. Just a little bit of hockey.
I did also add to the account today in the NFL. I mentioned it earlier. 49ers plus 7.5. Let's go.
Okay, so that's part of the best bets as well?
Yes.
All right, 49ers plus 7.5. For me, as we mentioned, there's a couple of spots around. Shop around. You can find these odds, these numbers. Locally, Caesars, you have a couple of spots. And actually, hey, we're talking a lot about being on the right side of some of these line moves today. Teased up the Broncos plus 7 and the Seahawks down to 1. Caesars has now flipped to Broncos minus 1. So I think this is going to be the predominant closing number. It should be at this point right now. So getting that teaser in is going to be pretty important, and that's going to be the add to the portfolio. I already have the Broncos at a pick. And as we talked about earlier, too, this was added in the show as we had discussed. David Adelman, Coach of the Year, 66-1. Let's go, Nuggets. See if we can get it done. What are you laughing?
Nothing. I'm just, I'm thinking about life. I'm very contemplative, obviously. No, I'm just thinking about the Nuggets and didn't you place a bet on them recently for the conference?
Yeah.
As well? You're a very pro Denver guy right now.
Oh, well, I mean, before the season, I have I have a Nuggets first, Thunder second division bet from before the season. I've thought since before the year, I was very high on this team. I think they're a very good unit, and then when they're fully healthy, they're going to be great. And we have nothing that has proven otherwise. They're going to be a very good team. And this is actually really good because guys like Peyton Watson all of a sudden are getting a ton of playing time and able to develop. And now you're going to go into this postseason. Hopefully you'll be healthy, which seems like you will because the recovery timeline sounds like everybody's going to be back. And guys like Watson get really valuable time in which they're going to be maybe even better by the time you enter the postseason. So, it was very pro-Denver heading into the year. And obviously we're just, sorry, LaMelo Ball, loading up on Denver stuff.
What is the latest on Jokic coming back? Because I saw their coach talking about how, he's getting antsy. He's never really been hurt before. He wants to get back out there.
Same timeline, supposed to be a month, so we'll see in a couple of weeks whether that's going to be the case. We'll note really quickly in our last minute, we did get an update from Shams Charania today. This is surprising nobody. Washington Wizards star Trae Young still recovering from an MCL and quad injuries on the same leg. He will be reevaluated after The All-Star break.
Oh, man.
Stop. He's going to be reevaluated after the All-Star break. He's not playing.
I thought you were going to say that Del Curry was getting his number retired.
That too. I mean, that's a Charlotte thing
Shams.
for you guys.
Yeah. Big, we're following the things.
Big Charlotte squad over
he
there.
is broadcast teammates with our favorite broadcaster in the NBA, Eric Collins.
That's right.
Like, who has more fun calls than that guy?
I was trying to think of the most boring play-by-play, but yeah, he is definitely is. He's definitely up there.
No, super fun. Okay, that's a wrap for us today. Appreciate you hanging with us. Lots of fun. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, and the Sony Open will officially be underway when we're on the air, so we'll be keeping tabs on some of our stuff here. Keep it locked, though. Follow the money with Mitch and Paul after this.